Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking into something pretty dark.
Yeah,
The confession of serial killer Andrew Ordialis.
right.
Um, and specifically, we're going to be focusing on his account of the murder of Lynn Huber.
Okay,
So this is going to be a tough one, folks, just a heads up.
for sure.
But we're going to be trying to make sense of Ordiales' own words and,
See what we can
see what we can glean from them about this particular case.
Exactly. And I think what's most fascinating is this kind of jarring juxtaposition between, these horrific acts of violence
Right.
and these sort of mundane elements that he brings into the picture.
And that's what I think is going to be so interesting about this deep dive, is this
Yeah.
sense of normalcy,
Uh-huh.
that he kind of layers on top of this
Yeah.
brutality.
It's a puzzle. It really is.
So, to set the stage for this particular murder, Urdiales had actually met Lynn Huber before.
Okay.
She was working as a prostitute in Chicago, and he had encountered her on 2 prior occasions.
Yep.
And then during the summer of 1996, he ran into her again.
Okay.
And she was carrying a large garbage bag at the time, and he offered her a ride,
Interesting.
which, seems like a pretty insignificant detail.
Right.
But investigators were actually able to corroborate this part of his story,
Oh, wow.
matching it up with the discovery of Huber's body on August 2nd.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up because that seemingly mundane act of offering a ride was
Yeah.
a really key part of his MO. He
Right.
used this facade of normalcy to gain the trust of these vulnerable women.
Right.
And it really speaks to this really calculated nature
Exactly.
of his
I mean,
crime.
not just this random act of violence.
Yeah.
This is something that's
Wow.
premeditated and thought out.
Absolutely.
So he drives her to an alley, and by his account, they were going to have sex.
Okay.
But then, according to Urdiales, Huber started arguing with him,
Interesting.
acting, kind of ditzy, as he put it,
Okay.
and trying to get out of the truck. And that's when he grabbed her and shot her in the head
Wow.
with the gun that he kept under his seat.
It's that
Yeah.
that sudden shift,
Yeah.
rapid escalation of violence that you see again and again.
Right.
In these cases, where he's describing the victim as somehow provoking him.
Right, as if it's justified.
Yeah, as if he's justifying his actions. And it's just such a chilling reminder of how perpetrators can distort reality to
Yeah.
rationalize this kind of brutality.
And it gets even more disturbing from there. So he drives her body to Wolf Lake.
Okay.
And as he's removing her clothes, he claimed that he pricked his finger on a needle.
Oh, God.
And this sent him into a rage.
Wow.
And he ended up stabbing her repeatedly in the back.
Oh, my God.
Then he shot her again and threw her body into the lake.
It's hard not to be just completely horrified
Yeah.
by the brutality of his action.
It's unimaginable.
Yeah.
But then he does something even more bizarre.
Okay.
So after dumping the body, he takes all of Huber's clothes, including the ones from the garbage bag she had with her,
Yeah.
and he donates them to the Salvation Army.
Oh, my God.
And his explanation for this was
I can't remember.
Huber won't need them anymore.
You know what that sounds like to me?
Right.
Compartmentalization.
Yeah.
Like a classic psychological defense mechanism.
Quickly explain that a little.
So it's where, someone's trying to separate these really conflicting thoughts or emotions, to
Right.
cope with trauma or stress.
Yeah.
And so in this case, it's almost as if he's trying to separate, the act of murder
Right.
from his everyday life.
So almost trying to create some kind of normalcy
Yeah, exactly.
within this horrific act.
Yeah, creating a barrier in his own mind.
So he donates the clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, is that just him trying to alleviate guilt?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you say it's bizarre, this donating the clothes.
Yeah.
But could it be a control mechanism?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's a way of asserting control after this chaotic act of murder
Interesting.
to, reestablish a sense of order in his world.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
Right.
This case, this mix of, calculated cruelty
Yeah.
and disturbingly ordinary actions.
Yeah.
It really, I don't know, it just forces us to confront, I think, some of the darkest aspects
Right.
of human nature.
Absolutely.
And it leaves us with a lot of questions. But I think one that really stands out to me is, what does it say about a person
Right.
who can commit such atrocities
Yeah.
and yet still, go through the motions of everyday life.
Yeah, and even find a twisted kind of logic
Right, exactly.
in their action.
Like, how do you reconcile those two things?
Well, and that's the question that continues to fascinate and challenge,
Yeah.
criminologists and psychologists.
Of course.
I mean, there may never be a simple answer to that, but by looking at these cases, and examining them in detail,
Yeah.
maybe we can get a better understanding of these motivations,
Right.
these justifications that these individuals create.
And that could even help prevent
Exactly.
future tragedies.
Maybe by recognizing the signs,
Yeah.
earlier.
Well, this has been a really heavy one.
Yeah, for sure.
But hopefully it's given everyone out there something to think about.
Yeah, I think it's really important to confront these dark parts of human nature.
Yeah, and to, try to understand them as best we can.
Exactly.
So thank you all for joining us for another deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.